Welcome everyone to the Spring MCSS webinar series, Uncomfortable but Necessary Conversations. My name is Dave Johnson. I'm the current MCSS president, and I'm also the chair of the Online Learning Committee, and I'll be your host this evening. We'll get started in just a few moments, but before we do, a couple of quick announcements. This is the first installment of our spring series of webinars tackling different avenues for teaching uncomfortable and difficult topics in the classroom. MCSS is pleased to offer this series for free to anyone who wants to participate, and recaps of this and future sessions will be available on our website and on our official YouTube channel shortly after it's over. 3 of our sessions are already live for registration, including tonight's, and the rest will be forthcoming shortly. None of these great offerings would be possible without the support of some fantastic presenters who have given their time and expertise to come to us this spring. We thank them all for the time they've spent preparing and getting us ready. We've been working with these folks right up to the wire. So like I said, the rest of the installments in the series will be released to the MCSS website shortly. With that out of the way, let's meet tonight's lead presenter and he can introduce his co-hosts. Our presenter this evening is Dr. Florian Feucht. He's a professor of educational psychology and peace studies. He is the founder of Thinking Habitats, an organization in Detroit that specializes in the development of learning materials and educational technology. And its mission is to empower people with thinking tools. Thinking Habitats received a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to develop the front porch experience for high school students and teachers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Florian.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to the kickoff event of the MCSS 2021 webinar series, Uncomfortable but Necessary Conversations. And the topic today is news, media, and civic engagement, giving high school students a voice and a place in their community. As David already introduced me, my name is Dr. Florian. I'm a professor for educational psychology. I've been in teacher education for 20 years. Yes, I founded Thinking Habitats with a mission to empower young people with thinking tools.
I'm Regina Rothstein. I have a PhD in educational psychology with a focus on critical thinking. And with Thinking Habitats, my work is focused on research design and data analysis.
Hi, I'm Kate Michelson, and I have a PhD in educational psychology too, with a focus in news media literacy. And at Thinking Habitats, I focus mainly on curriculum design and development.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bergardi, and I have a master's in educational psychology, and I am also part of Thinking Habitats, and I assist the team with different aspects and also communicate with teachers and other partners.
So what we want to do is really, we would like to start with you guys in that spirit of the webinar series, Uncomfortable but Necessary Conversations. So we do have a question for you that we would like for you to answer. And maybe you can also put your response in the chat. So we would like to ask, what challenges exist? Think about your own students in classrooms. Type 3 sentences into the chat describing a challenge that you face when it comes to facilitating classroom discussions about current issues and/or controversial topics. It's getting hotter and hotter, right, in the chat with the issues that we have. So emotions are always like bubbling. So I think we can't simply erase the emotions. I think their emotions are part of daily life and they help with engagement. We just need to bring in a way of more respect and more mindfulness to look at those topics from different perspectives and to look for the facts and the opinions and the explanations and for reliable and trustworthy sources and take it from there. So with what we are doing with the front porch experience, there's always the risk to be too rational about those topics. So we always try to think about how we can put a heart in our teaching and in a spirit to get that community engagement. So it's always a difficult balance, you know, between rational thought, validating facts, finding trustworthy sources, and then also to have that engagement. I mean, if they come to school or to their community without any emotions or attachment or solidarity, then it's not working either. So we kind of need to bring up that cognitive, rational component and maybe tone down a little bit the emotional components if they are too heated. So what is the front porch experience? Here's an overview. This is a big project that has been sponsored by the US Department of Agriculture to empower young students, high school students in rural areas specifically, to use news as a knowledge source to make informed decisions. So over the last 3 years, we have developed an online module that we have been testing in different schools with students on how to empower students to become more savvy news consumers, more engaged in their community, and to beef up their critical thinking and reading comprehension. So the front porch experience, this big module that we developed, really focuses in on local news, local issues, and local people. And that's also a differentiator to other learning modules that are like generalized across the US as a nation. So here we really focus in on the local newspaper in your community, on issues that are going on, that are being voted on or discussed, and people that are really have been elected to positions in your community. So in that module, students learn more about the news as a knowledge source and how to engage as citizens. Students read the local newspaper, and students complete this module in class or online, or also as a hybrid. We have tested various versions of this. And overall, we field tested it with 700 students in 30 classrooms. So this is just an overview of how the module looks like when you log in. And you can see the different components. And now I'm asking Kate to give us a quick demo through this.
Thank you. So this is just a sample of what the front porch experience looks like in the online LMS. It's in Moodle. And I just want to kind of briefly show you some of the navigation that you'll see, and then what a typical lesson looks like. And all of you are going to get logins into the shell eventually. So you'll be able to investigate it a little bit more on your own later on. So on the left-hand side, you see all of the lessons listed. And you might notice Florian talked about how this focuses particularly on local communities. And so the lessons are organized kind of introducing students to that theme, and then looking each lesson at the who of the community, the what of the community, so that students kind of get to know their community or think about the different W questions in their community. If you scroll down underneath the lessons, you'll see there are a few other buttons here. The last one under the first one under the lessons is the capstone project. And that's a culminating project where students choose a cause kind of toward the beginning of the front porch experience. And they start reading about something that they care about in their local paper, and eventually do a project on that once they've sort of analyzed the facts and gotten to know more about that topic. So there are details about that under that button. And then you'll see two buttons for reading strategies and critical thinking. And I'll just click on one of them. These each have interactive videos under them that are part of the lessons, but these are a big part of the course because they model different reading strategies or critical thinking strategies, and students can kind of practice applying those on their own. Then the very last thing you'll see in the menu is a button for local resources. And there students have access to what we call the newsroom, which is local newspapers kind of tailored to whatever area they're in. And then some local maps so they can kind of explore the geography of their area if that's useful to the particular class. And then a list of local leaders so they know who's who and how to contact people, how to even look at their social media if that comes up for an assignment or something, if they need to investigate things. And I'm going to go back up and click on lesson 2 and just give you a quick overview of what a typical lesson looks like. So at the top, you can see there's just the general introduction and overview about the themes for that particular lesson. And then it talks about what students will do. And then underneath, there's a list of activities for that particular lesson. And you'll notice in each lesson, as you start exploring this on your own, you'll see a pattern of news media mindfulness activities. And that's something where students sort of think about a news topic they know about and think about, how do I feel about it? And is that news useful to me? And so just getting them to start thinking about their news habits somewhat. And then there's also one or more discussions in every lesson. And these focus on what's going on in the community, who the people are in the community, that sort of thing. So getting students to talk about just their local area and understand it even better than they might already. And then there are assignments in every lesson. And with these assignments, students are practicing some sort of critical thinking strategy typically. In this one, they're identifying the W questions in a news article. And in this one, they're looking at news articles to decide what is a newsworthy news article. They're just kind of looking through a newspaper and saying, this is newsworthy to me, and this story is not newsworthy to me, just to kind of start thinking about what's relevant to them in the news. And then there are also slides built into every lesson to give students the information they need, for instance, about a quality local newspaper, what to look for. And then finally, there are the videos that support students in learning these skills. So I'll talk about those a little bit later as well. And so I know that's just a very quick overview of all of these points. We're going to delve into some of these a little bit more later, and you'll have the opportunity to explore some of them in more detail. If you scroll down further, then you can see there are these little tiles that show the different elements in each lesson. And whenever a student has completed something, they can check it off. Or if they submit an assignment, once they have an attempt, they'll get a little check mark there. They can track their progress throughout the course. So again, you're going to have a log into this, and we'll look at things in more detail later. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. And I think Regina is up next.
So what are the importance and benefits of the front porch experience? So like Florian said earlier, the FPE was tested in high school classrooms, and it was implemented by social studies and ELA teachers with their own students. And after implementation, 88% of students reached proficiency in reading strategies, 84% reached proficiency in critical thinking strategies, and 70% showed improvement from pre-test to post-test in news media knowledge, reading, and critical thinking. The teachers who implemented and worked with us to implement the front porch experience were encouraged to use and adapt the curriculum to fit their own goals and their classroom needs. And all of the teachers implemented between 80 to 100% of the possible features that were part of the FPE. They said that they valued the high level of student engagement that they got from implementing the program, and they noticed improvements in students' use of primary documents. We also received feedback from students and teachers who participated in the program. So here are some things that students had said about their learning and experience with the FPE. So one student said, I learned how to really dig into an article and analyze the different sources and explanations. I learned how to think critically. I think this program really unlocked a part of my brain that I did not know I had. Another student said, the program helped to emphasize the importance of being aware of the problems in your community and providing a means to organize a plan to solve these problems. And finally, another student said, before this experience, I wasn't too fond of the news, but after completing it, I now really enjoy discussing the news and local issues with my friends and family. And teachers also shared their experiences with implementing the program. So one US government teacher said, I like the idea of the teaching of a process. Next time I'm faced with an article or any type of reading, I have a process that I can rely on, that I can verify certain things. And a teacher who implemented this in their world history classroom said, this is a fantastic lesson in how to evaluate what you read online. I can use this again when we talk about fake news and in how to distinguish between evidence-based news stories and junk.
Okay, I'm going to talk about news media mindfulness. This is an activity that we've developed and that has been implemented in a 9th grade ELA classroom in Michigan. So how this worked is each day at the beginning of class, students were asked to recall a current news story or a current event that they had heard about or read about recently. And then they were asked to write it down on a sticky note along with the source and their initials. So this activity benefits students because it helps them to place themselves within their local community and the larger scale communities, and to think about how they're affected by and how they can impact local issues. It also helps them to reflect on their own emotions around news events, and gives them daily opportunities to think about their role as news consumers and also to discuss with their peers as they talked about what each of them had placed on their sticky notes. And students really reported liking this activity. They said that it helped to keep them informed of local issues going on in their own communities, and that it helped allow them opportunities to reflect on what news they were consuming and also provided an outlet for them to express their feelings. And I'll be leading a breakout room later in the session that'll give you more of a chance to dig into this mindfulness activity. So hopefully I'll see some of you there.
Front Porch Experience also provides students with a systematic and reliable process for evaluating the trustworthiness of news media and other informational texts. So this is a flowchart that kind of summarizes that process, which begins by building on what students already know about the structure of news articles, the W questions, and showing them how to use these questions to break down an article into simple statements, which are represented on the left side of the chart, and complex claims, which are represented on the right side of the chart. So following the chart, students first decide which of the W questions are being addressed by a given statement. So are they who, what, when, and where, which state basic elements of a news event? These would be simple statements, or why and how, which explain cause and effect claims and additional elements, and these would be more complex claims. They then determine whether that statement is supported by evidence or not, which then leads them to decide whether to classify the paragraph as a factual statement, an opinion, or an explanation. So a factual statement is when a simple statement like who, what, when, and where is supported by evidence. An explanation is when a complex claim about why and how is supported by evidence. And an opinion is when a simple statement or a complex claim has no evidence to support it. Students can repeat this process for each paragraph of the text, and this allows them to analyze how often the text uses evidence to support its claims and to evaluate whether the source is trustworthy or not. And if you'd like to dig deeper into this process, I'll be demonstrating how to apply it to an authentic news article in a breakout session later.
And another cool feature of the Front Porch Experience are some interactive instructional videos that we have. And there are 14 of these that teach students critical thinking and reading strategies. And so some of the critical thinking strategies are like what Regina was just talking about, where students identify claims and evidence and see if something is trustworthy or not. And then reading strategies have things like how to use the structure of a news article to find the information that you need, or how to use context clues to figure out the meaning of a word. So things that kind of help students understand the article. And so this slide here depicts the structure of the videos. And in each video, Dr. Florian models a particular strategy for students using an authentic news article. And then after that, the students have the opportunity to read a news article and practice applying the strategy themselves. And they can do this at their own pace because it's a self-paced video that they just click on to the next part when they're ready. And then as students are answering questions, the video adapts to what they're doing. And so that's this little orange circle with the two arrows. They're either directed to the modeling track, where they receive more support and scaffolding from Florian on kind of how to apply that strategy and more examples. Or they go to the practicing track where they just kind of work on their own a little bit to keep applying the strategy. And then so at the end of this, they're given a proficiency level, and this is automatically graded and provided for students. So, and it's not like a letter grade or a percentage grade, it's just either this red guy saying you're not yet proficient, the green guy saying you are proficient, or the green guy with the crown where they're above proficient. And so students can retry the video and improve their proficiency level as they go. And so this is another thing that we're going to have breakout rooms on, and I'll be leading one where we look more closely at the online shell that I showed you, and you can have a chance to look at the videos in there.
And then I'm here to talk about the Capstone project with the cause. It was mentioned before, it's an essential part of the front porch experience that pulls everything together. And that's why it's, of course, called Capstone project. So students have been reading local articles. They started finding their own cause. They continued reading around the cause, and they did all those videos, writing assignments, applying the W question system, doing the mindfulness. And throughout the module, they have now identified the cause, like teen obesity or drug use in schools, or the water quality in the lakes of Michigan. And so they find a cause first and just write 4 sentences about it. And then we ask them to find a vision for their cause. How do you think, if you work on this and you get a lot of people together to support you in your community, how could this look like in the future when you are successful? And then write 4 sentences. And then we ask them to come up with a mission. So what is the pathway? What steps do you need to take? How long will it take you? How do you want to do this? 4 sentences. And then the last component of this writing activity is to come up with your personal brand. Like, when you do all of that, how do you want to be perceived by the outside? What are your core values and how do you want to be perceived? So students really use this to get engaged and really find a news article. And you can really see the comments earlier on by students, how they got more and more engaged. So this is really our motivational hook. But then students need to find 4 news articles around their cause, and they integrate that, use that as a primary document sources, so to say, and they integrate it into one paper. And they need to write 3 to 4 paragraphs on their cause, integrating the news media as a knowledge source. And the fun part here is really that we also ask them to generate an artifact about that. And so they can choose to do a scientific infographic. They can write a letter to the politicians. So we just wrapped up one testing round in a local school, and many students chose to write a letter to the governor of Whitmer. Some students pick a bumper sticker campaign. You know, how do they want to promote their cause using different types of bumper sticker messages? 2 wrote a poem, and so on. So there are different choices for students. So they can really pick their own topic, write some academic researchy kind of paper that's rather short, and come up with a really good artifact. And then the last component is the resource file that includes the 4 articles with their analysis, and they use MLA references, and yes, and their analysis is in there. So we can cross-check that all those 3 pieces fit together, or to say it in different words, that the paper and the artifact are properly grounded in the news as a knowledge source. And that.
All right, I don't seem to be joining. Oh, wait, there, join. Yes, got it.
Awesome, fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, but I learned something new too, so that was good.
Okay, awesome.
To start wrapping it up slowly, you know, the topic of the webinar is uncomfortable but necessary conversations. And now you saw in different breakout rooms how you can have different approaches to that. And you also saw, like what you mentioned early on, your own challenges that you posted in the chat. And so the way we found how to deal with the unbiased, how do we do this in an unbiased, nonpartisan way to talk about uncomfortable topics is really to figure out what is a reliable process. And that's what we were able to research and develop using that W question system, that we do let students have their own opinion, that they can decide at the beginning what's newsworthy, not newsworthy, and we just let that stand. But then we later on dig in and look at the news articles or other primary sources with them using this reliable process of the W question system to figure out what is factual, what's opinion, what's explanation. And then we have another system to figure out what is a trustworthy source and how can I assess the trustworthiness of a couple of articles, so across a whole primary document portfolio, so to say. And that's kind of the magic here, that we do not tell students what to think about. We just really give them the tools to figure out where are the facts, where are the opinions, where are the explanations, where's the data, how does the data support cause and effect, problem and solution. And then it settles pretty quickly with them what is a reliable and trustworthy article. And then they can go for that. So we really avoid taking sides. And sometimes that's really difficult to do, and you just need to hold your horses. You gotta wait, you gotta trust the student, you gotta give the respect, you wanna learn about the student, but then you can use this reliable process to really dissect the articles, looking for evidence and facts. And then you do it with another article, and then they piece it all together. And that's what they then do for you in their capstone experience. So that's our way of dealing with those emotions and the controversies and the different political landscape that we have in the classroom. To wrap up, we wanted to ask you one more time, think about your own students in your classroom and type 3 sentences into the chat that describe how you hope to help your students find their voice and place in the local community. So the one that we did at the beginning was about the challenges, and this one is more on the positive side. What do you hope for your students? Hoping we can have impactful conversations about any topic without having discourse breakdown. Yes, so we do need to have a discourse culture, right? How to do this properly, and to practice that. And how can we do this in a safe zone that the students feel comfortable doing that, as well as the teacher, just like we said earlier or mentioned earlier, not being called into the office about something. I can see that the process adds a value to the students' ideas. As they move through the process, they discover the value of articles and their ideas by finding support. Yeah, and that's actually also what the students say. We had a couple of examples, and if you wanted to dig more deeper into the artifacts, we have feedback from students there too on the clarity of the learning objectives and what their takeaways are. And they do mention that they find the news more interesting now and more engaging and more helpful, and they talk about it with their friends and families. Show my students how to understand what they read. Show my students how to critically analyze what they are reading. Demonstrate and allow my students the freedom to express their opinions in a safe environment. Perfect. Awesome. And it's also that respect, for the student's perspective. The student is coming in the classroom, and to create that hook, that engagement hook, we do need to let them speak. And, if you don't let that happen, have their initial voice or their voices, then if you block that too early, they will not be able to polish or will not be willing to learn the tools that we want to offer them. I hope to have students find their voice and feel as though they speak up with allowing others to have a voice as well. I think being intentional about how we engage with sources and then giving students a chance to think about the engagement, it will help with civil discourse. Of course, that's perfect, right? How to develop that discourse culture and showing different perspectives. Awesome. Fantastic. And then I have here a big invitation to you all. And then we are looking for teachers to help us implement the front porch experience in fall and spring. And so we asked if you were interested in working with us on doing some research. So you could implement your version of the front porch experience in your classroom, and we would help you with that. We provide teacher training around it. We are right now looking at June, September, or March. You could earn your state continued education credit hours for that training. We have some funding that could pay for 3 days of a substitute teacher. So your engagement or your learning curve or your preparing of materials would not come out of height. So you would have some dedicated time to do that. And if you choose to, so you could also present with us at local state teacher conferences, if that's something you are interested in here. Then this is our slide with your login information. And even if you are later on watching this, you can contact us and you get a login as well, of course. Yeah, and then we would just like to thank you all to be part of the kickoff event of the MCSS web series webinar. So thank you all. Stick around if you have more questions or email us at hello@thinkinghabitats.com.
Well, again, we'd really like to thank Florian and his team for their time this evening. We really, really value our partnership, and we are always happy to collaborate with you. As I mentioned at the start of this session, a video recap will be posted to our website and our YouTube channel soon. We invite you to check out future sessions in this series by visiting our website and clicking on the webinars button on the top banner as well. So on behalf of the Michigan Council for Social Studies and all the people listed here, I'd like to thank you for your time and attendance this evening, and we will see you next week.